Got to seal this roof. It's leaking in a lot of different spots. We found the parapet wall flashing doesn't cover the edge of the side panels. There's no drip edge on the edge, so the water's hugging it and get backing in the wall in there. So, gonna be working here all day to get it right. Well, it looks to me like they just used a pair of snips or something to cut all that along the edge. Maybe a saw, but yeah, really crooked. And it looks like they put all the gutters on top of the drip edge instead of underneath it. And the building owner wants to know why that water is draining in the wall there. That's probably the biggest reason. That roofing over there is sticking over a little bit further than this section up here. Yeah, we definitely got a lot of water getting in there. Gutters ain't draining properly. And there's your drip edge that they went over top of it with. Okay, this gutter here is holding water. So, gotta take that all loose. I don't know why they didn't cause it to drain that other way. All it takes is a level, and the screws they just put in at random, and the tiny screws that they use, sometimes they just break off. So yeah, that was just a disaster waiting to happen, really. And then let's see here. Yeah, there's a drip edge there, but they chose to put the gutter over top of the drip edge instead of putting the drip edge inside the gutter. So I don't know why gutter guys do that. It's definitely the wrong way. But hey, they're only here to screw gutter to the fascia board, collect their money, and see you later. There's no warranty. Nobody actually shows you what they're doing for the money. They just screw it up there and say, well, have a nice day. So not only did several of these tiny little screws just break off, as we look down in here, the one for the downspout, it's broke off as well. So that strap's not holding. The screws in the metal drip edge are in there, so that's probably why they didn't put it under the drip edge, because they was too lazy to take the screws out and put the gutter underneath the drip edge. And now they're getting water inside the wall. These gutters have been on here no more than 2 months, and all these problems were still existing. But you know, without somebody that's been doing it for over 40 years to show you these things, nobody would ever notice that kind of stuff if they wasn't experienced at it. Okay, we see here that you do have drip edge on here, but they put the gutter over top of the drip edge. So I don't know what gutter guy doesn't know that the gutter goes under the drip edge. Drip edge goes inside the gutter. But yeah, that's why you had all that water leaking behind it. So it's just sad, but you know, people do weird things. So look here, like the screws for the metal roof are actually going over top of that drip edge. So the old gutter that used to be up here, I'm guessing that's where the hanger was, so they had to cut the drip edge so that they could make room for the hanger. But this time, all they did is they left those hanging up there, and then some of the others they folded down and then put the gutter directly over the drip edge. So they just folded them down, put the gutter over top of the drip edge. When it should, here's the old hanger right there, look at that. They just covered it up. Just covered up the old hanger, went over top of it all. And there's another one down here. There's the oat hanger. They're all in there. There's another one. There's another one down here, down there. Well, why do people do that? Why not take the oat hangers off and get that gutter under that drip edge like they're supposed to? That's just crazy. So I'm finding a lot of spots where they just drove their screws in too far and made dents. So that holds water here, and then it goes right in that screw hole there. And this flashing is actually bent in that direction, so it holds quite a bit of water there because it's pointing down and it's getting in those cracks right there. And then of course this dented metal here, and on the top, I mean, look, there's water laying here. So as soon as that rubber grommet wears out, water's going to be poured in the wall there. And of course this here, you can see this dip right there because they drove that screw too far. Over here, I don't know what in the world this is. But yeah, that's just a mess right there. They dented that in so far that they just filled it up with caulking. Well, anybody that thinks caulking is going to keep water out should got no business on a roof. But yeah, there's all kinds of things here to be fixed. You know, this parapet wall flashing was kind of short here, so they wasn't going over top there far enough, so we raised them up about 1.5 inches. Now they go all the way up in there, and that water's not going to overflow and get behind that metal there anymore. So anytime you're going to use a metal roof on a low pitch like this, the screws are not supposed to go here on the flat part. That's just a leak waiting to happen. They should go on the ribs. And I know a lot of guys that say, well, it don't hold as good on the rib. Well, it's going to hold good enough, especially if you use a long enough screw. And even if the rubber grommet runs out or wears out, it's not going to leak through there because the water doesn't run along the rib. It runs along the flat part. And that's why you've got all these leaks down here. I mean, we've already sealed these, but man, it was so easy to just lift these panels up. And look, that screw, it ain't holding nothing, because all the water has ran through the screw, and now it's not holding anything. That's because whoever put the screws there caused a leak by driving them in too far, caused a dent, and when that rubber grommet wears out, now that screw is worthless. So those screws need to be on the ribs, and that will not allow it to leak in there. And another thing here, yeah, look at that water in there. Yeah, that metal sweats real bad. And if all you're going to use is 15-pound felt paper on a low pitch like this, that's just crazy. You could do better than that, people. Come on. Okay, so here I found a spot. They overlapped the metal here, but when they went to, I don't know what they did, they went to cut something and cut that metal right there. So that was definitely letting a lot of water in. And as the water fills up on this, because all this metal is leaning backwards, all the water fills up on the back, and it just drains all the way across here and down in the wall there. So that was not done properly. That could have been done a lot better. Okay, we got that piece out of there. Had to cut it. See how much water was laid in that, it was draining in there. But then that caused water to build up and go right in that hole right there. So yeah, somebody left a nice little hole there for you, for that water to drain right in the wall, no problem. Okay, got them gutters up under that drip edge this time like it's supposed to be. So yeah, that'll hold much better. The water won't come pouring down the wall. These people do crazy stuff. Okay, on this little section, looks like everything's in good shape here. Notice the inside closure, that styrofoam right there. That styrofoam is designed to keep the water out. So as the wind comes along here and blows that rain up to the top of this metal, top of that metal's up in here, it'll get over top of that metal and drain in. But they've got the closure here to keep that from happening, that styrofoam seals to the metal there, and it keeps all that wind-driven rain to climb to the top of that metal and reach in behind it. You don't have that at the top. Okay, this is the part of the roof that doesn't have any closure. So no outside closure, so water can be driven right up in there with the wind coming off this big hill right here. And that water will just run right up that roof, right over top of that panel that's there, because there's no closure in there. They didn't seal it off with closure. And that'd be the same thing up here on this wall. So all that water right up in them cracks. Because nobody put no closure there. So got to install the closure there, and then you should be leak free now. Okay, now that we got our closure in there, that'll keep the wind driven rain from running up in there and getting over top of the metal. It's back in there. They didn't have it there, and you was getting a lot of water in that wall there. So that closure there is going to prevent that water from running, wind-driven rain running up in there and going over top of that metal. So you are leak-free now.